So, good evening, everyone. Nick Wagner, Senior, host of the Full Potential Podcast. It is Sunday night, so I'm back with another amazing guest. And I'm really excited for my discussion tonight with Michael Goldberg. I joined him on his LinkedIn Live show. I think it was earlier this year, so I can't
It
remember. I
was.
think, yeah, January. Had a great time with Michael talking about my career, and now he is returning the favor, and I get to interview him. So the roles are reversed. So every Sunday night, Michael, almost every Sunday night, I try to bring on an awesome guest to hear about their career journey, and my hope is to inspire those that listen by having someone like yourself share, what you've done, and for those out there, what could be, right? So you've done a lot in your career. I think others benefit hearing from what others have done. So I'm really excited to talk through your career journey tonight.
Well, if you're looking for an amazing guest, I'll talk to you later. Thanks. I'm kidding. It is great to be on. Thanks for having me, Nick. I really did enjoy our conversation earlier this year. I think it was in January is when we did it. And happy to return the favor and be a guest and talk about whatever you'd like to talk about.
Well, and I'll formally introduce you. So Michael Goldberg is, you are, I think the way I would describe you, Michael, is you try to help people find, a great job for them, right? Or help companies find great people is kind of the way I would describe you based off of what you do. And I think that's, you're an entrepreneur, but I think you have a passion for people. And I think you do a lot of things, you've done a lot of things in your career that I think show that, which we're going to dive into tonight. But I always like to start with my opening question is when you meet someone for the first time and you're introducing yourself and they ask, who is Michael? How do you typically introduce yourself to individuals?
I like to introduce myself as a person who really is passionate about what he does. And to me, I want to make any person I come into contact with, whether it's a candidate, a client, someone just needing my assistance, for whatever the need, is to make sure that they're the most important person and taking care of them. I've been told by others that I'm a giver, in the sense that I will do what I need to do to take time to talk with people. And I don't know if it's my magnetic personality or just I love to learn about people and what they do, and how they do things. So, when they come to me, it's normally that there's an issue. So in most cases, so while I do perform a lot of recruiting services, the focus of Hiring Transformed, which is the name of my business, is really to help companies be better at recruiting, because at the crux of it, and you and I have talked about this. There's just not so many good things going on in recruiting and HR, and I want to see that improve. And I think 2021 is the year to definitely do it.
Yeah, and I think back to and I love what you say on your LinkedIn, right? So turning recruiting teams into superheroes, and I love the use of the term superhero, because I think that it's just a very I think it kind of see, there you go, the superheroes. I think it just kind of shows your passion, right? So, and we'll dive into what led you to owning your own business and being an entrepreneur. We'll talk about that. But I want to kind of start from the beginning. Was your dream as a young kid always to be an entrepreneur and work in the recruiting HR space, or did you have other dreams as a kid? Like what was the dream job growing up?
Okay, first off, nobody dreams of becoming a recruiter. Let's just come on, Nick. You know that. No, everybody falls into HR. They fall into OD like yourself. They fall into learning and development. They fall into HR. We fall into it. Nope. When I was younger, I wanted to be a broadcaster, like for the NFL, or in the NBA, because I grew up with Brent Musburger in his prime, and he did the NFL Today, and it was just a much different time, and I knew I wanted to help people. That's the one thing I always knew, because my parents brought me up to teach me that you take care of others. And I'll give you a great example. I was probably about 11 or 12. So I'm getting to that angry teenage years kind of thing. I remember going to a restaurant. It was just my parents and me. I don't know where my brother was, but we're at a restaurant. And my father was an attorney, and this judge walks in and he introduces me to the judge. Well, my parents always raised me to stand up and look somebody, shake their hand, introduce myself to them. And I decided that day I didn't feel it. And I was a jerk. And parents didn't, my father never got like super angry. He was like, that's never going to happen again. I'm just here to tell you that. My son stands up and respects people and treats people. I don't care how old you are, how young you are, doesn't matter. You represent yourself. And so when you go to introduce yourself, stand up every single time. Whether they go, no, sit down. You stand up every single time you shake. I haven't sat down to shake unless I'm standing up like at a mixer or something like that back in the old days. But I have never once ever started to do that. Another story, real quick. My wife was then just my girlfriend. She had visited my hometown. I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina. And we're walking to go have lunch. My mom and my wife and me, my father. And all of a sudden, we're walking past these guys that are digging ditches. Next thing I hear is, hey, Attorney Goldberg. And, my wife, who, she didn't know my parents. This was kind of the first time, right? And that's the command of respect that my father had, as an attorney in the city of Charleston. He would go to help people no matter what. And that's what's been instilled in me. That's the piece of my father that carries with me. He's gone now, but it's something that I always just remember, and it sticks out in my mind that I'm here to help people. And so when I got this superhero award, I got it back in 2006. And my HR leader had given it to me as a joke, and because I had done this hard staffing project, and she called me the super recruiter. Well, when Twitter finally came up, this is in 2005. In 2006, when Twitter came about, my Twitter handle was super recruiter, because that's what it says, the super recruiter award, right? So, after graduating college, I ended up going and working at for Marriott Corporation, but I was doing it for $650 an hour. I wouldn't like my friends going out and bringing in, back then it was 30 to 40,000, working in major consulting firms. I didn't want to do that. So I went and I worked, from the ground up, and worked my way up the Marriott organization. And 5.5 years later, I met my wife, and I was I decided to go get my MBA after that. So that's where the other part of the service comes in. In every company I've worked for, my team and I have always been known for the service that we deliver back. We do what we say we're going to do, and we do it when we say we're going to do it. And we try to go, beat it by a day, because that's what service is all about. That's what recruiting or HR or really anything we do, it's about helping others and serving others, whether you're in a full-time job by yourself or an entrepreneur. But, fast forward, after being a corporate recruiting leader, I decided I wanted to become an entrepreneur. So no, I didn't figure out I wanted to be an entrepreneur until I was 53 years old. So, and here we are 3 years later.
No, I love the story about your father and what you learned from him, because I think as you've talked to a lot of guests, you learn obviously a lot from your parents, and they instill different values in you. So I'm thrilled to see you kind of carry those forward, even though your father's no longer with us. I want to talk about the topic of college, because it's one of those things that I have had a lot of guests. I've had some go to college. I've had some not go to college. They've been successful either way in most cases that I've when I've talked to people. You went to undergrad and you went and got your MBA. Was it expected that you were going to college growing up as a kid? Was it like, Michael, you're going to college after high school?
Yes, always. It was going to be somewhere. It was going to be somewhere. My father really wanted me to go to the Citadel, and I did not want to go to the Citadel. And by the way, he dropped out after the first semester. So why are you pushing me to go there? Well, I think you have the right personality to do that. Okay, Dad. Well, you didn't seem to like it, 25, 30 years ago. Why the hell would you send me there? So I ended up picking the Georgia Bulldogs as my alma mater. And, you know, I knew I wanted to go to a school. And look, I had a good time in undergrad. Didn't we all? I called it Disneyland because it was at Georgia, just like many other, it was just a big party. It was a good time. My grades were okay. I didn't get serious about my grades until grad school. And I knew I wanted to go to grad school. The thought was, all right, you can graduate and you can, once you go to law school or go get your MBA right after you graduate. It's like, no, I want work experience. And, I probably could have utilized the Career Center a lot better, but didn't. And that's why I ended up making $6.50 an hour after graduation. But I was happy with that. I didn't care. It taught me to appreciate that you build your way up. And, there were these managers that were coming in from like Michigan State, UNLV, Cornell, which had great hotel management programs, but I was running circles around them. And eventually I was promoted. I moved up to a supervisor within less than a year and then a manager 6 months later because I started at the ground level and worked my way up. So one could say I used my full potential to understand the business. And I grasped it. I got to work the 1988 Democratic National Convention. I got to work the 1988 Winter Baseball meetings.
Wow.
When IBM Comdex was a thing, kind of predates like one of the first major computer conferences out there. We hosted at this hotel. It was the Atlanta Marriott Marquis, right? And I'll never forget this. We walk in, and we are ready for we hosted the press and Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Coalition party at the hotel as a part of the convention. Michael Dukakis was the Democratic nominee, going very strongly against Jesse Jackson, and we're all ready. Press walks through the doors. Guess what happens? Our computers crash, which means you have to manually change things. You have to manually let people into the rooms, take their luggage. I mean, people were not happy. They couldn't use the phone because the phone won't turn on unless. So you had to go in and override the system. I think I was there. I got there at 11 o'clock in the morning, and I left at maybe 4:30, and had to be right back at I was supposed to be there at 7 o'clock the next morning. Got to reprieve and got to go in at 11. But that's what it took. You had to come up with contingency plans. You had to look for different alternatives. So that's a big stressor. But because my manager was so calm, cool, and collect under pressure, I had some of the best managers learning from early on in your career, which you really want.
Right.
That I always learned that when I became a manager, I was going to be the same way. I didn't work in as large of a hotel, but you had oversell situations where you had to send guests to other hotels because you're overbooked, right? That's not a fun thing to tell a parent or tell a client when they walk through that. I don't know if you've worked in hotels, but man, it's crazy. But that's where I got my foundational knowledge in helping people. And that's where I really started to soak it in and understand the importance of, delivery.
So tell me how you made the pivot, because you went to undergrad at Georgia for psychology. You did your MBA in human resources management. What made you want to go get an MBA in human resources? Like, what was that critical event that happened? You were like, this is what I want to go get my MBA in.
It was, that's a good question. I'll tell you the answer. It's kind of snarky, but basically I didn't feel like going to get a law degree, and this was the next closest thing. Because I was very appreciative of HR law. I loved it. I was really entranced by it. It was great. I had a law school professor that taught the class. But I got to learn different components. And I learned about compensation. I learned about I was in school when ADA first came, when Clinton signed ADA into order or into act or whatever, made it live. So we did papers like that. But HR to me was my chance to help people and to grow up through the ranks in a position in helping employees perform better, hiring managers and managers make better decisions, how they treated employee, made sure that they were treated fairly and equally. So that's why I chose that. I wasn't very good at math. Most HR people aren't. So I just decided to go off and go into the HR because it was something I was very, very interested in. And it was an MBA in human resource management. And I thought I could conquer the world once I had it. Little did I know it would take.
No, I mean, I think, I mean, it's, I think you bring up a great point for my guests, and we have a lot of early career professionals that listen. I agree that there's something to be said about getting some experience before you go back to get your MBA or your master's, because you do have, I think, a different perspective on getting that degree and that education once you've had some work experience. So I think there's a lot of value in what you said there.
Yep.
So I want to talk about actually working in HR, right? And I think the interesting thing, Michael, that we talked about is you worked for for-profit companies, you worked for nonprofit companies, and now you're an entrepreneur. So you really had a chance to experience a lot of different types of organizations, which not everyone has that opportunity in their career. So I think that I want to dive into a little bit of that, because I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts on maybe some of the pros and cons of those experiences. But one of the things that I really want to talk about is this role that you had for the nonprofit, the American Heart Association and the American Stroke Association, because you were the director of talent acquisition there. And I just feel like this job, probably not only were you doing HR, but you were also talking about having the opportunity to help people, right? I mean, the whole organization exists to help people. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that experience working for that nonprofit.
Yeah, sure. So just to back it up a minute. So after I got my MBA, I spent about 8 years doing HR generalist work. And then in 2001, I decided to focus only on recruiting and talent development, because I just got tired of listening to people gripe about their boss, or their boss griping about their employees. It just got old, and people go, oh, here comes HR, right? No, they're notching your belt, for terminations and stuff. I don't want to be that guy. I want to bring people into the organization. I want to use my research skills, which I love to use, and helped. In 2013, when I left Freeman after 7 years, I went to work as the national director of talent acquisition for American Heart. And, a lot of people just think, oh, it's just fundraising, and oh, it's just slow. And there's just bad stereotypes on nonprofits. And it's simply just not the case. It's one of the fastest paced organizations you can work for. What was great about it is it made diversity, equity, inclusion very easy, because the mission of the company was to meet people where they are and offer equitable healthcare throughout all neighborhoods, to improve food deserts, right? So we partner with our community outreach folks, and we go and recruit in those in those areas, and it was great. But the one thing that I really enjoyed there was I got to get my hands wrapped around branding and lift that up, to get the word out about what we were doing. And the company had never experienced anything from that before. It wasn't a centralized recruiting function or centralized HR function, for that matter. We sat in HR, but it was my job to partner with all the different recruiters out in the field. There were 12 of them, plus I had a staff of 5 people in Dallas at the National Center. But we worked together, and nothing was done through it. Nothing was done in a vacuum. It was all done with bringing people in as partners. So not just the recruiters, but bringing in hiring managers and executives and getting their opinions on what needed to be improved on processes, what needed to be improved in terms of whether it be speed of presenting candidates that were actually qualified versus candidates that were just being kind of thrown against the wall. Because when I got there, everybody was just sending over resumes and then waiting for feedback to go, well, do you want to talk to that person? I can get it set up. Recruiters weren't doing phone screens. Recruiters were not digging in and doing what the real recruiting is. They had Career Builder. That was it,
So you had a big opportunity when you got there.
Yeah, it was low hanging fruit. Well, I had the same opportunity at Freeman. I knew exactly what to do. But it was just in a different industry. But to your point, yeah, we were helping others improve the quality of their lives through better, through reduce the amount of heart incidences and stroke incidences, right? And I was working with some of the smartest people in the world from
So
all.
I want you to share with the audience, because you were there for over 3 years. You worked for the for-profit company Freeman for 7 years. Was, from a culture perspective, is and I know every culture of every organization is different, but from a for-profit to a nonprofit, what do you think are some of the big differences, or what makes the nonprofit unique from a for-profit company?
I think what makes it unique are the people. They're a little more reserved. Where at Freeman, it was more like the old days of hospitality. That's why I was there for 7 years, because it was very much about getting things done no matter what. Here you are on a tighter budget. You were reserved by your operating budget because you only got 30% of your operating budget given out to finance, recruiting, HR, accounting, marketing, communications, right? The bulk of that money went into research. 70% went into research and science, right? And the other part of that 30% was putting on this conference that they did, Scientific Sessions, which was the largest Freeman event for quite some time, up until, obviously the pandemic. But even then, those numbers were starting to dwindle a little bit. So everything had to be done because we were decentralized. Everything really had to be done with consensus. And there's nothing wrong with that. Did it slow the process down a little bit in terms of getting things rolled out? A little bit, but I didn't mind. So you adapt. And I think someone that really understands and has let's talk about emotional intelligence. You got to have the emotional intelligence to be able to scale back. It's built within my character to either run at 100 miles per hour, or run at 20 miles per hour. I can't do either in real life, but I can, what I'm saying though, right?
Yeah.
And so that was the biggest difference, and trying to get things through. But the one thing that American Heart did allow me to do was get as creative as I wanted to on the social media posts. And that's really where I kind of began to understand employment branding, talent attraction. And we were the first company, one of the first companies out there to do Twitter/Periscope Live with recruiters and hiring managers, where we every first Wednesday of the month, we'd get on and do this broadcast. And with our phone and tripod and the whole 9 yards, it didn't cost us a dime. But we'd have hiring managers on there. We'd talk about the different groups in there, because it's not just about fundraising. It's about advocacy. It's about community relations. It's about cultural equity or health equity. It's about conferences and events. I mean, so it had all these different moving components. So the goal was to educate everybody about what it was. And we'd get hiring managers in, we'd talk about our processes and how to apply, and we'd answer questions, and we'd go for 30 minutes, and we end up averaging about 1 million impressions every time. So it was great.
Yeah,
Nobody
awesome.
else was doing it.
You've been in the video game for since before it was even cool. I want to pivot to your own business. So you left the American Heart Association to start your own business. I think you mentioned you were in your 50s when you did that. So that was over 3 years ago. You started in 2016.
Here's what happened. So I ended up taking a job. We're not going to spend much time on this, but I ended up taking a job for more money. Biggest mistake of my life. Had to uproot myself. My family stayed here in Dallas, but I had to uproot myself to the Midwest. I'd never lived in the Midwest. Midwest is a very different place to live. I call it, I'm sure you've heard the term Minnesota nice and, Indiana nice, which, you can take for that what you want to, but it's not like the massholes of Massachusetts. I'll say that. It's on a very different scale. But basically it was a bad decision, and I ended up moving back here. And that's when I decided to start my own business 3 months later. So, and I knew I wanted to, my expertise was the fix-it guy. I was the turnaround guy. That's what I did at American Heart. That's what I did at Freeman. That's what I did before Freeman at Software Spectrum. I was really good at that. But the hard part is you always wanted to do everything to you wanted to offer all your skills, all the knowledge that's up here, HR, recruiting, learning and development, OD, change management. I could offer it all. So I really started with this huge net. And of course, that didn't work very well. And it took a little while to build up. Basically in 2018, it took, I finally figured it out where I could be on call and go on these gigs and help companies either start up a recruiting function or help turn one around. And so that was my first big break. The gig went 8 months. I thought life was really good. And what did I forget to do? I forgot to market. I forgot to market myself during, even throughout that time. I do what every job seeker does when they find a job. You disappear from LinkedIn. Right. And so that was one fatal mistake that I made. So I really had to work hard. 2019 was an okay year, wasn't all that great. And then we all know what happens last year, and I had to pivot because no one was doing recruiting services. I would do recruiting here and there and stuff like that. And through referrals and stuff, I would get gigs, but they were very much, one-off recruiting in different industries. And so basically, I was able to pivot last year to focus helping career job seekers. But I wasn't charging the $5,000 to $10,000 that most of these people charge, which I think is absolutely ludicrous, to help a job seeker who's going to be unemployed in the coming weeks or is currently unemployed, and you're asking them for $5,000 to help them find a new job. You can't even guarantee them that you can find them a job. So I charged $500 to start out. It was a hell of a deal. I finally got smart and started raising the rates a little bit, but I never went above $1,500, and it was palatable to people because I break it up into monthly installments. But the key thing there is I met a lot of great people, and I did it at a discount rate because the hope is that maybe on the back end they'd come to me and say, "Hey, can you come to this and help us fix recruiting, or can you help us find a position?" And look, it's all about the long play in entrepreneurship. So it hadn't happened yet, but I have a feeling it will. Businesses, as we were talking before the broadcast, I've got a few irons in the fire, more than a handful, that I'm hoping if I can close 2 or 3 of those, it'll set me up. The other thing I did smart last year is I actually booked business for this year. So I had a nice book of business coming into this year. Now I just want to make the gravy, right? So I had enough that I know I could live off of. And pay the rent and pay the bills, keep the lights on, blah, blah, eat. But the way I look at entrepreneurship is this: you got to give without any kind of exception or expectation of receiving. That's what entrepreneurship is. It might not happen tomorrow. It may not happen next week. It may not happen the week after or 3 months from now. I can tell you, I've been working a couple of clients here to try to close some business for the last year and a half. And I'll keep doing it. I'm not going to give up because I know eventually they're going to need me for something. But it's going to come. I don't know when it's going to come. I don't have my crystal ball working yet. I keep trying to plug it in, but it won't plug in. And I just know along the journey, I'm helping people. And by giving out free advice or doing some pro bono work here and there, it's going to come around. And so with entrepreneurship, the people that are entrepreneurs that you see on LinkedIn or you hear on Clubhouse, I don't know if you're on Clubhouse, but how to make $1 million in less than a year. I'm like, there's no way you're making $1 million in less than a year. There's no way unless you have an iPhone type device or an Android type device or something that people need, right? And so, but the other people that are making a lot of money are the entrepreneurs that have started their own business saying, "Hey, I can help you drive business to your LinkedIn profile and you'll get leads every day." Okay. I bit 2 years ago. She was great, but I did a post the other day. I haven't built a business. I don't look to LinkedIn to be my revenue generator. I look to LinkedIn to be my network connection and relationship builder. And that's what you have to look at. Tools such as LinkedIn, Clubhouse. I don't know. Again, Clubhouse is a new tool. I do a Clubhouse chat every Monday through Thursday on a different topic in recruiting and talent. It's called Talk Talent, which is the name of my LinkedIn Live broadcast at 4:30 Central Time. So this week we're talking about technology, how to figure out what's the right technology, what to ask, right? What are some of the best AI platforms out there for recruiting? What are some of the best applicant tools out there? Recruiting automation tools. So that's what we're going to talk about this week. And it's just a different topic. And again, I'm investing 4 hours of my time
right
to do this. Have I made money off of it yet? No. People would look at me and say, you're crazy. And I go, no, I'm not crazy. This is all going to come down. And I'm knock on wood, I'm hopefully going to have my first employee in the next 2 to 3 months. So that's the plan, is to add 1 to 2 employees this year. I want to be that busy.
You bring up some good points on being an entrepreneur and how it's so different from working, for a for-profit company or a non-profit company. And I think the thing that, as a previous entrepreneur myself, I understand is you're always selling. Even when you have work, you're still selling, you're still marketing, you're still networking. And, I think entrepreneurship is not for everyone. I think you bring up some really good points because, I think a lot of people, it's like, oh, you own your own business, you get to make your own schedule. Yeah, you work all the time. That's your schedule, right? So I think there's a lot of people, Michael, that have glamorized entrepreneurship on the internet as this, amazing journey, and it's so easy, and with social media and everything, and while yes, social media and the internet have obviously made certain aspects of starting your own business much easier, right. It doesn't mean it's easy. Entrepreneurship will never be easy, right? No matter what industry you're in, right? Whether you're doing what you're doing with HR, or whether you're a plumber or an electrician or a dog groomer, or an app developer, it's all hard.
Absolutely. I mean, my wife, she's like, well, when are you going to go get your full-time job? I look at her and I go, I have my full-time job. This is what I want to do. Because there's a limit on how much you make in a full-time job. And that's not, to me, it's not all about the money, but I'll tell you this, it helps. Okay. We all know that. But what I'm getting out of this is more meaningful relationships by having people like yourself on my show, or me being a part of your show. Talking to authors and speaking with, people in leadership roles, people that understand and get the value of talent, right? And to me, so when this is the Full Potential podcast, my full potential, at full potential, I am making a difference in people, in the individuals that I talk to every day, and they're making an impact on me to be better than who I was before I talked with them. I know it sounds kind of hokey, but it's true. I mean, I'm lately, I don't know what it's been, but I've just been very appreciative of who I have in my life now. People like yourself, people like Vitaly Buford, people like Anna Morgan and Joel Lalji and Adam Posner. I mean, these Janai Disbell, these are the people that affect my life, on a weekly basis, because they've got my back and I've got theirs. And that's what it's all about. That's what entrepreneur is all about, is just having each other and being there to support one another.
No, I love that. And I think that's really well said. And I appreciate the kind words, but I mean, LinkedIn really is a community, and I've met some amazing people like yourself there. And so I definitely echo that. I want to follow up on that, because I always close with the same question, and I want to hear from your perspective, Michael, what is the one thing that's helped you be successful in your career, right? So what's the one thing that's helped you reach your full potential throughout the for-profit jobs, the non-profit jobs, and now you as an entrepreneur? I know you just gave us some advice, but is there something else you want to share with the audience?
Patience. Things don't happen overnight. It takes a while to build it up, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're working for a company. I always tell people, look, you need to stay at least, you come on board here, you need to stay at least 2 years. Year one, by the end of year one, you know where the bathroom is, you know where the cafeteria is, you know the basics, you feel good about it, you understand your job. After hitting some of those speed bumps along the road, you're good. Year two, that's when you kick ass and take names. And you really, really, really start making an impact, because you're using your full potential. You don't have to worry about what people are saying or what they're thinking, because you've gotten a great performance review, because you really do care about the company and the passion and the culture of the organization. But you need to have the character trait of patience in order to be successful, whether in a job or as an entrepreneur.
I think that's such fantastic advice, because we're in an age of instant gratification, whether it's you want to watch a show, listen to a song, find a date, get a taxi, get an answer on Google. Everything's instant. Literally everything's instant. And I think, to your point, having patience in your career, whether it's for a company or for yourself, is something that is just it's priceless. So I think that's fantastic advice. So I appreciate you sharing that. I just want to thank you again for coming on tonight, Michael. Fantastic discussion. I love you had a really, I think, unique career path with the different the different paths you've gone on. Starting with your undergrad, getting your MBA, going into human resources, doing corporate, the corporate route, and then the nonprofit route, and now your own successful business. I wish you the absolute best with what you were doing. What we'll do, Michael, because I always do this, we'll link to your LinkedIn profile in the show description. We'll also link to the Hiring Transformed website for anyone that wants to get in touch with you. So whether people want to get in touch with you because they want to hear about your career, they want to hear about your business, we'll make sure people have that opportunity to contact you.
Yeah, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out, say hello. I'm on Clubhouse. If you need an invite, I've got a few invites I can share. It's only good for iOS users, so you got to have an iPhone or an iPad or a Mac in order to join the fray. But actually, it's the new up and coming place to be. So connect with me wherever you need to connect, and let's see if I can't make a difference in helping you be successful and reach your full potential as well.
Yeah, I love your passion for people, Michael. So thank you so much. I wish you the best. Stay safe and be well, sir.
All right. Thanks very much. Thanks,
you.
everybody.